Always unprofessional, no expense considered, and hopefully uncancelable. Thank you all, one and
There we go.
everyone, for coming to tonight's episode of the Signal Boost. My guest this evening is someone who's a little near, whose mindset is very near and dear to my heart. Someone who is in the indie comic space rather than the indie novel space, which kind of have a little bit of a foot in both communities. And tonight, I've got Mr. Luke Stone. Mr. Luke, thank you for showing up.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now
Looking forward to it.
I start each live stream rolling to see how it's going to go. Since your name is Luke Stone, I got one of my dice that looks a little bit like granite. We're going to try this. No fudging. All right, we rolled a 7, so we're going to have to pick up a little slack probably. The universe didn't smile on that one.
All right.
Mr. Luke is not just an indie comics creator, but also the creator of a website, a crowdfunding site for independent comic creators who are looking for an alternative to the Kickstarters and Indiegogos of the world, which have a habit of not necessarily treating all their creators with the same level of equality that they really should.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, John, but yes, that is true. People let politics and different varying opinions sneak their way into who they want to make money, and I just don't think that's fair.
It's not. And it's not how it used to be. To some extent, there's been efforts in the past of, especially in places like Hollywood, where the prevailing thought process should have from people who were politically minded should have been they need to try and show politics and everything. And I've always been completely against that, or at the very least, if you can't do it well, don't do it at all.
Right.
And unfortunately, that has not been the case in the last few years, especially in the comic book industry, where it seemed like nobody was really even paying attention to what was. And if anybody who's paid a little bit of attention to the comics industry knows that the people who are running it now are not at the same talent level or mindset of the people who were running it, say, 20 years ago. I'm going to go real quick, Luke, to the chat and see who's here.
Sounds good.
I'm going to say hail to Hail the Lore, who is one of my mods. Thank you, sir. Mr. Andrew Campbell, thank you for showing up. Mad Ruth over from Facebook, thank you for coming in. Not Facebook, your YouTube channel. We are simul streaming on Luke's channel. I'm also live on Odyssey and Rumble. And so if you want to leave us a chat over there and a like to help us boost us up in the algorithm a little bit, that would be most appreciated. Especially on Rumble. Rumble, home of all the gamer words. You can say so many things you can get away with over there that you can't say.
So many things, like all the words almost.
Gray Wolf Graphics, hail. Eric Wad, hello. Fly Fox Pro, good evening. Guilty Gearhead, hello. Immortal Rising Comic Book, thank you for coming in. It's just Tug. Sup, been looking forward to the stream today. I hope we don't disappoint. Eric Grant, thank you for dropping in. Eric Wag, good morning to you as well. Aaron of Wolfbane's Comics. And Herman P. Hunter, who just gave me a review copy of his latest book, The Wizard's Stone. Sorry, Luke, I'm going to interrupt your promo with a little bit for Herman P. Hunter, the fellow indie author myself. So, behind that, Luke, how did you get started in this venture in making independent comics?
Well, I always loved comic books. And, when I was in my teens, I really wanted to work for, some comic book publisher somewhere making comic books, obviously. Is what I wanted to do. But I wound up stumbling across some independent works, and I got kind of excited about the idea that you could just do what you wanted to do without, comics code authorities and things like that popping in. That was very interesting to me. Some of the kind of like the unfettered freeness of the independent alternative comic book industry. So I started looking at that more, and I decided I was going to try to make my own comic independently. Back then it was the 90s, so it's a lot harder to do it than it is now.
Oh, much harder, I imagine.
Yeah.
No distribution, no social media for promotion.
No on-demand printing. No, there was barely digital lettering and digital coloring. Digital coloring was there, but a lot of these tools weren't available on your. We didn't have iPads. I mean, it wasn't like this stuff wasn't readily available. All the time. So it took a lot of learning, a lot of effort to get there. And I sort of kind of got away from comics. I would come back every few years and do a comic with someone or for someone. And I was out doing music mostly. Then in 2014, I moved to Jacksonville, Florida. And while I was there, I was trying to find another band, and there just wasn't a band to get hooked up with, at least kind of music I was interested in at the time. And I started thinking, well, maybe now's a good time to, just mess around with my comic book. So I started looking into that, and I wasn't taking it real serious, but that was probably October, and I started thinking about that in 2014. In November, a friend of mine, his brother, so a guy in our friend group, his brother worked for IDW and was out kind of doing the comic book thing. Had been working professionally doing that. And like when someone in your friend group or close to your friend group is doing something that you want to do, you kind of just live vicariously through them. It's like, oh, well, they're doing it, so it's fine, right?
A
Well,
little
he
bit,
wound up,
yeah.
yeah,
I've been part of a few collaborative efforts online on several that unfortunately didn't really go anywhere, and things that didn't necessarily, mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. Is certainly nothing like what we have now.
right, yeah. Well, he wound up catching some con crud and getting sick, and he passed away in November of 2014, and he was just a couple years older than I was, and I had already been, kind of flirting around with the idea of doing my comic book stuff again, because it's always been a passion of mine. I've always wanted to do it, always loved it, and it hit hard, watching my friend suffer from his brother passing, and realizing that he's not too much older than I am. I mean, I could go at any minute, and would I be pleased with the idea that I've never produced the comic book series that I want to produce? And it didn't settle well with me. And so I just started buckling down. In 2015, I looked for publishers, realized that small indie publishers didn't really have the money to invest. And if I was going to do it, I was going to have to do it on my own, pretty much. And that, it didn't make much sense for me to, pay for everything and then have someone else's name on the book as far as publishing. So I took the venture to do publishing myself. And so then I just started working there. And that journey from 2015 to now has been quite interesting. But that's pretty much how I really got into doing comics. Started taking it serious with crowdfunding. Did take a short break of about 18 to 19 months. But other than that, I've been head first into it, to the point now that it's my day job. It's drawing comics is what I do.
Oh, it's fantastic. Not everybody
Which
gets
I never
to
thought I
live
would be able to say that.
right. Not everybody gets to live the dream. There was this web comic. I don't remember what it was called. It would occasionally have it, but it was a bit of an esoteric thing. But there was one panel. I don't remember its title, but there was one comic I always remembered, and it had four kids lined up, and one was a little boy, and he said, I want to be an astronaut. And another was a little girl. She said, I want to be the president. And another little boy. He said, I want to be a doctor. And the fourth kid was a little dude with a little mop top going on. He was a little chubbier than they were. And he said, I want to be the front man for a novelty rap rock group. And they look at him and go, you're weird. Get out of here, loser. The last panel is this gigantic splash. And on the sides, you see each one of the little kids that grew up. They were all working menial cubicle jobs. And in the middle, there's the weird kid as wearing some kind, like his whole band's all decked out like freaking army generals and screaming, "Oh yeah, motherfucker!" Like he was
Yeah.
living. The point was he lived his dream. They did
Yeah.
not.
Yep.
And no matter what they thought of his dream, the whole point was that was that he fulfilled it.
Yeah.
And I've had that similar dream myself. When I was growing up as a teenager, I reached this point where in my own writing, I thought, I think I'm good enough that I can actually do this if I, train to do it. And had a lot of life and stumbles and stalls get in the way, but I'm getting ready to do that myself. That was always the dream, was being a published author, but that kind of shifted. It's the same thing that happened in comics. The shift of who was in charge, publishing, a lot of different material that's not always been the kind of broad appeal that we used to have. Uh,
Yeah.
that happened as well. So what happened is a lot of authors have come into the indie space, and books that would not have made the cut, but were exceptional works of fiction, are now being put in the indie space. And here we have the indie comic scene doing very much the same thing. And from my perspective over the last couple of years, as I've watched it, not just from the larger voices in, say, Comicsgate or adjacent to Comicsgate, but pretty much these days, you've got all the tools you need necessary to make and publish your own comic and distribute it directly to an audience. And even though we don't
You really
technically have,
do.
even though you technically don't have the access to the big name comic characters who are all getting their own movies now, and believe me, inevitably that will burn out. Uh, there's
Hmm.
no barrier between you and your audience. It's complete creative control. It's what the guys from Image did when they broke off from Marvel and DC in the 90s.
Yeah. I think there's a roadmap that people think that you have to take. I think, you hear this phrase level up a lot. In order to be able to do this for a living, you've got to work for a publisher that distributes through Diamond, or you've got to do this, or you've got to play the game. And I've seen a lot of people over the years buck that and kind of live outside of the plan, quote unquote plan, right?
Yeah.
The way to do it. And that really inspired me. And when you see Eric July do what he did, you
Yes.
realize that the old rule book it's gone.
The game has changed.
Yeah, the old rule book is gone. You can do what you want now. And so that's what you know, I've decided to do about a year ago. We, I was pastoring, and the church wasn't going to be able to stay open, and I wasn't physically fit to do much else. So I just started drawing comic books and doing that full time. And I mean, when you think about, full time, I know guys that are working for Marvel and DC that aren't full time. They're still doing other jobs, And I'm drawing for people that are passionate about what they're making. It's independent. They're hardworking, and it's really fun.
They fact check the pigeon.
You know.
Yeah. Sorry, my wife was distracting me for a second. And if you look online, this is just from my observation, a lot of the comic pros, or quote unquote pros, because the way they act online, especially on Twitter, is very, very unprofessional. And not at all what I would expect from from people who are supposedly the leaders of the industry, the supposed industry they're in. A lot of them act like very petulant, uppity children. Um, and it's put me off to a lot of mainstream comics. But if you see a lot of them, especially in the last, say, year or so, a lot of them put their complaints and frustrations on Twitter about not getting enough, not getting paid on time, not having the kind of work that they thought they would. And it's led me to believe that probably not only are those things true, it's probably worse than they're letting on.
Oh, it
Because
normally is, isn't it?
yeah, they still probably want to keep their jobs. I've always subscribed to, what Eric said, that they're holding on to these because the perception of popularity and power, and not even realizing that they're their own worst enemies, and their work ethic is not even near where it used to be. I mean, my God, we had just late last year an April O'Neil comics from what was it, Boom Studios, misspelling the word
IDW.
April on the title. How do you do that?
April, yeah.
April, yeah.
April O'Neil.
I
Yeah.
mean, I was laughing really hard when it came to that. But here in the indie comic space, it's the same thing. It's the same kind of mentality that I've taken. Eric July and John Della Rose and Ethan Van Sciver really influenced me in my decision to not even pursue being traditionally published. If it comes about someday, maybe that's great. But in seeing the freedom that I have, indie authors have just as much. That they have just as much resources to put their work out there, and they're making some great stuff.
They
And the
really
indie
are.
comics are doing the exact same thing. If anything, you guys are both our wheelhouses are kind of rising at the same time. And early on, and I can understand this because my apologies, I kind of felt this way too when self-publishing novels and comics kind of the whole concept kind of came up and started to take off. That was my position. Well, there's no editorial process, so what people make is going to be crap. And the Macho Man never lied when he said the cream always rises to the top.
It really does.
And the people who are making stuff that's exceptional are getting their work out there by word of mouth. And the indie comics is working. You have bigger personalities than others, but you yourself, like you just said, you're making a living now making indie comics. That's nothing to sneeze at, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's people that they've got their books in previews right now, right?
Yeah.
And I know they're asking people to support them in other ways. And the only thing that I'm asking for support for me is just to pay me, just to hire me for the jobs. And I'm working, I'm quite honestly, I've almost got more work than I know what to do with at this point. I mean, that's
what you call a good problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's how much work I'm doing right now. I have to produce like a minimum of like 8 pages a week right now to keep caught up. Like that's just, I mean, it's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have.
It's a real good problem to have. I'm not complaining at all.
We got the chat is dropping in from over on your channel. Mad Ruth, Brian, Chris.
What's up, guys?
Right? How do I say that? Chris Gow?
Chris Gal, yeah.
Chris Gow. Comic Kitsune, hail. Thank you for coming on by. T Bunny is up in the chat. This is a bad idea, us being. He's got to go to supper, and I can't read what's over on Rumble because they're dropping the gamer words. So we'll keep chugging along. Now, Luke, how long you been drawing the comics for? Like so full time?
Full time, just a few months, really.
Okay, so that's a
I
relatively
started
new
last year.
development.
Yeah, I started last year. And it started out that, I was doing part-time just for myself, basically just drawing my IPs. But then I started picking up some other commissions part-time just for fun, basically. And, I'm going to unplug that.
No problem.
She's getting my nerves today.
One of them.
But so I was just doing it for fun, or part time, just kind of make ends meet, have a little extra spending money, and then I realized, I could probably just go ahead and do this because I had enough work coming in, and so I just like, this is it. And I mean, but I really couldn't work another. I didn't want to go back into ministry. I wanted to take a break from that for a little while, and then I wanted to,
I can
have a little
understand that.
rest.
I've been in the church most of my life, Baptist and non-denominationals. And, sometimes, and I can understand how that would be stressful for pastor. You were a pastor or assistant pastor?
I was pastor. I was the guy in charge.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
I knew a guy. He had to stop doing that too because he was pursuing jujitsu full time. He was a jujitsu black belt. He was a brown belt at the time I knew him. Was really nice guy, one of the baddest dudes you ever meet too. And you wouldn't know it to just talk to him because it turns out in real life, a lot of people who are actually badass are really just kind of quiet and keep to themselves and
They really are.
very laid back. They're not big and braggadocious and trying to be in your face about it.
They don't need to
Um,
be.
no, they don't because
Here's,
they know what they can do to
yeah.
you.
I mean, here's a bit of wisdom that I've picked up over the years. Normally, the smartest person in the room doesn't have to tell you they are. The most talented person doesn't have to tell you they are. And the strongest person doesn't have to tell you they are. They just know. They just know.
Yeah,
And
they don't have
when you,
anything to prove.
yeah, there's nothing to prove. And when you're at that level, I mean, you just don't care. Like, it's not, you know, that's right. Yeah, there's just nothing to prove. And so
Little
you
humility
approach it differently. Yeah.
does go a long way, and a lot of less intelligent people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Um, so what I want to know is, and this is the biggest reason you're here is because this is the thing that caught my eye, and I'll tell the funny story in a second about this to everyone listening. How did you get started with the idea for Fund My Comic?
Honestly, I just wanted to make comics be left hell alone. But I saw what was happening in the world with conservative and primarily Christian conservative voices. I knew we're going to be on the chopping block very soon, and I kind of fall into that category. And being a Christian conservative, have been mostly adjacent since the beginning of the Comicsgate thing started. And then, a few years ago, I stood on behalf of some of my fans. I had a couple people that were trying to encourage me to distance from those people, and about 60% of my backers were Comicsgate fans. And so I made a declaration. I said, "Guys, I'm with you. I'm not disowning you at all. Thank you for your support. You make it possible for me to make comic books, and I appreciate you. Thank you very much." And that pretty much set me as a CG guy, I guess. Which isn't I'm not upset about that, or it's not a big deal to me.
Yeah,
In fact, when I was sick in the hospital, CG folks took care of my. They raised money and sent it to my wife and kids, so that she could come visit me in the hospital, an hour away.
that's awesome.
So yeah. So I mean, you're not going to see me say anything negative about that group of people,
And not that I'm
especially after
asking.
that.
I know some people, when it comes to the topic of Comicsgate, can get a little prickly when they
They
hear it.
do. Yeah.
I think that's a bit on the unintelligent because you have to wonder if so many people are joining a particular movement. There's usually a reason for it,
Really. Yeah.
and
Truly.
from my experience, especially online for a long time, is people, especially on social media, love to congregate around what they feel is a cause. And if that
Yep.
cause has a really good label, as we've seen in certain movements and groups in the past, um, my only consternation has always been a lot of times these things have a shelf life, but I
Right.
don't think we've hit the shelf life for that particular label just yet. Like
Yeah.
for instance, the fandom menace. That was a big movement for a couple of years, but the channels that got big in that did not, keep using it. They actually stopped. They dropped it and they kind of moved on from it. And then the people who are their detractors, remember I said they're not very intelligent.
Right.
Detractors are so stupid. They're still attacking the fandom menace 3 years after channels that got big stopped using it themselves. They're not even smart enough to keep up with what they hate.
Yeah.
Essentially they're attacking a ghost or a phantom. They're shadow boxing. It's like, who are you attacking? And to me, it was kind of distressing to see this kind of the whole denigration of the comics. Because while I did not grow up collecting many comics, I only collected 2 comics in my life. I did enjoy reading comics, and I picked random issues up from time to time. I loved comics. I've always loved the medium of them, and even when I was writing, had the occasional thought, I wouldn't mind doing that. That sounds like it'd be cool. Writing superheroes like Spider-Man and Superman, stuff like that. And now that I'm at an age and a skill level where that could possibly be a reality, I wouldn't want to do it because I wouldn't want to work for these people.
No.
No. I like the freedom we're afforded as independent creators to make what we want, how we want, when we want. And, I know that, making a comic is not necessarily an easy task, but with the tools we have now, it's never technically been easier for an independent creator.
Yeah. On-demand printing is readily available. There are so many editors out there and people that actually produce the work. I mean, you can find colorists, letters, and a lot of people that work at a very reasonable rate. Like I myself, I have a pretty reasonable rate. I think that's why I'm so busy. When you charge not very much, you gotta draw fast. So I think that's why I'm so. I gotta draw fast.
So when all and I fully believe in that too. Like to the extent that I kind of had that similar idea. So okay, everyone who's watching, here's the funny story, right? Luke and I are kind of adjacent. We've got kind of a group chat that goes on that I was brought into, even though I was not. I'm not a comic creator, not yet. Wink, wink. So I was kind of privy to a lot of conversations of what y'all were talking about, and but I didn't pay attention to all of it. So the Fund My Comic thing kind of went past my eyes a little bit.
Yeah, I teased you about it.
Yeah,
and I was afraid after I teased you about it, I was afraid that like, oh man, he doesn't quite know my sense of humor. I'm like, hopefully he doesn't think I'm.
What happened was I was listening to you on a stream with T Bunny and a couple of others, and that thought was just in my head. We need some kind of uncancelable website, and I jumped on and I espoused that. I really wanted to get that off my chest, and you were in the chat, just kind of silently sitting by, going, "That's what I'm doing. Is he messing with me?"
Yeah, like, are you? It's like, where you been, John?
Doing a lot of stuff. What can I say? That particular one slipped past my head, but I was grateful and I was glad to see that you brought it to bear. And now,
the truth is, we've been talking about it for a long time,
right?
And a lot of people have been saying, "This is what we need. Hey, we need an alternative." And I think, I didn't endeavor to start a crowdfunding website for a couple reasons. Number one, whenever you put yourself out there to do something that no one else is doing, you get people that are afraid. Fear dictates their every move. Even if they are actually out there producing something, fear is a big motivator on the reason why they don't take some of the chances that they are afforded. Those people, when they see you throw caution to the wind and take a big step, they get weird.
Yeah.
We'll just call it weird. Okay. Yeah. I think everyone understands what that means. I think if you've been on Twitter, you understand.
I know exactly what it is, and I can tell you what it is. It is a projection of And to me, it's one of two things. It is either these are people who are comforted by complacency and the idea that something could change or potentially even upset does kind of set them back. Or, and I saw this a lot in the DDP yoga community with people who were fighting as hard as hell to lose weight and get healthier. Um, when the people that are close to you see you doing something they know they can't and being better for it, they start to project their own failure onto you, and they figure that they concoct some of the most cockeyed reasons why you're doing what you're doing, and most importantly why you're succeeding, or they try to denigrate your success as much as possible because they don't want you, the psychologically, subconsciously, they don't want to see you at that better place because it makes them feel inferior. I knew couples who split because their spouse thought that them losing 100 pounds was it was a selfish thing on their part, or they were just doing it for themselves. Well, yeah, they wanted to be healthier, not die of a heart attack by the age of 45. Um, it's very disheartening for a lot of people, and having the kind of
It's very
support
sad.
for our endeavors, especially in the indie space, to me is what's most important. Everyone who's a fan of Luke, who's listening to me, this is the whole point of this live stream that you're watching. The Signal Boost is for just that, for independent creators to have a place. Because not when I started my channel, I didn't just want to make a place for me to talk about my things and bitch about the mainstream and how bad the latest MCU movie is. I wanted to make my own, like the Iron Age says, to create your own culture. Like Eric July says, create your own parallel economy.
Right, exactly.
But the thing that's frustrated me the most is the loudest voices in YouTube and the detractor space. There's not a lot of synergy between them drawing attention to what is not working in comics and movies and TV, and helping elevate the voices that of the independent creators that need to be lifted up. That's what the Signal Boost is for. That's why you're here, because you're like me. You're a like-minded independent creator, and I believe in what you're doing, and I want what you're doing to reach as many people as possible. For what little my platform is, I got 607 subs. They're all yours, and I hope that that your message you
I
bring
appreciate that.
is reciprocated to that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I think that's, I think a lot of times, there's a statement, no good deed goes unpunished. And I think we find that out a lot about helping people in this industry. A lot of times your generosity is not met with gratitude, but it's met with something else. And it causes a lot of people to not want to help, not want to be, not want to do that. I think that's part of the other reason why I didn't want to start a crowdfunding website. In fact, what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a crowdfunding website for me, just so that I can make comic books be left hell alone.
Right.
And then I found out that I had a strong enough infrastructure to handle multiple people. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll let my friends use it, because I don't want to deal with people that aren't my friends too much. Because, when you start when you open up the floodgates, you get people in there that they don't want to appreciate what is in front of them. They actually want to go in and they want to mess things up, right? And so I knew I didn't want to deal with that too much. But I had a lot of people, and I do a lot of helping people behind the scenes. And I like that. I like staying behind the scenes, John. It keeps me out of, it keeps my name out of people's mouths.
I can understand that.
Right? Yeah.
I've been a little bit like that myself. I very much prefer to create as opposed to making myself some kind of figurehead, or
Right,
the decision to put myself on YouTube to try and help promote myself for my future works was the way that Eric July and John Della Rose and Ethan Van Sciver have done. What they've done is very successful. And,
Yeah.
that's, to me, that was admirable. And, the way they put themselves out there as a platform for, what their works, but also helping others. John invited me onto one of his streams to help promote the anthology, Weird West anthology I released a few months ago. And I appreciate that. And I'm going to have him on here at some point.
Well,
But,
I honestly knew that I needed to build a platform for myself to sell my books from.
right,
Because you can't always depend on the generosity of others to get on their platforms
right.
to sell. So I knew I needed to start building that for myself, and I wanted to build kind of my own infrastructure all the way around. And it was Telepathic Bunny, actually, and my friend Nick that encouraged me to use what I had kind of stumbled upon for the betterment of everybody. And so it took some convincing, but I did decide then, okay, that's where Fund My Comic came from. It came from this desire to have a parallel economy, something that was hashtag uncancelable, and so it's kind of evolved into what it is now, and it's doing quite well. Honestly, it's been up 6 weeks.
I think
6 weeks.
I thought it launched in
7?
what? Wasn't it late January?
No. We
A little
didn't
later.
get to launch then. We had a developer that we had trouble with. Yeah, we've only been up
6 weeks.
6 or 7. Yeah, I think 6 weeks now.
At this
Yeah.
point, I would like to stop you just to say, now I did have the website pulled up and ready to share. I've got a weird problem, a technical problem going on. Like, we're still streaming. I just checked on my phone and I can see all the chats and everything. My mouse, I can't click on anything. I think my whole desktop is froze. I can't switch between tabs. I can't click on chats. And I don't want to click in broadcast or anything like that. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to roll through this technical mishap.
Oh, that's right.
everyone in
Yeah,
the
you
chat-
can't even click the to share my screen if I would share it.
Probably no,
That's
probably
right.
not. I don't know what's going on, folks, and I apologize. I had some pop up that came up, and I X'd out of it, and ever since then, my computer's froze. So pretty much the
Share
only
just in
thing we
case.
can do right now is talk to each other. So
Well, that's fine. I think that works just fine.
yeah,
Too.
we'll roll with that. I was just giving everyone
Yeah.
a heads up.
You guys know how to find it. It's really easy. Fundmycomic.com.
Okay,
Piece of cake.
now my face has stopped moving on my screen. This is a wonderful technical nightmare.
You're working over here, so
I'm looking on my phone. I'm still talking. Yeah, so I'm just gonna talk to you through my phone right here on YouTube. There we go. So I at least know what you're saying. Oh my God, and the face I'm making is ridiculous too. I'm actually gonna take a picture of this. Everyone, hail the Lord! Thank you for sharing the chat. I appreciate that. I'm gonna take a picture of this just for the hell of it. No, don't mess with me, Fly Fox Pro. Don't mess with me doing that. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, folks. I'm having technical issues. I can't share anything. Unfortunately, all I can do is talk with Luke. So, but that's exactly what I brought him on here for. So, listen, everyone, if something happens and the stream goes down, you know why. I didn't boomer this, I promise. It's probably just my computer. So whatever. So anyway,
well,
Luke,
let's talk infrastructure.
yeah, tell me about that, man.
Because I know people are I get a lot of comments from people or I hear a lot of comments. Nobody says anything to me directly. Apparently I'm scary. I don't know. I didn't realize I was scary.
You're terrifying me.
Terrifying. No, I get a lot of comments, where they think they know what's under the hood, but honestly, no one really has a clue what's going on underneath here. This is not a WordPress site. There are no bubble plugins. This is not a Shopify kind of thing. This is from the ground up its own thing, its own infrastructure on its own servers. And it really is to rival things like Shopify and WordPress sites. As far as security goes, it's far more secure. Payment processing, it is, it's secure. I mean, we're using the same payment processing that Indiegogo and Kickstarter would use or do use. And so when you think about a crowdfunding site, I kind of went at it the right way. I wanted to make sure I did. Because a couple of years ago, someone tried to do this indie-crowdfunding.com or something. And it was a WordPress-based site, and there was a lot of things that I noticed that just weren't... I had a lot of questions. I was a huge detractor because there was a lot of questions that weren't getting answered. And I was like, I just don't think this is going to work. And I got a lot of flack from that. And a couple weeks later, they were in the wind because it was not going to work. I mean, all the things that I'd questioned, it didn't happen, right? They didn't have an answer for. And I knew that was going to come back to bite them. And so when I decided that I was going to make this public, I wanted to make sure I had all those answers, John. I wanted to make sure that it could withstand me. And then I also remembered I had this board member that would always ask me the toughest questions. And so one of the things he encouraged me with, he said, Luke, anything that you do, make sure that you're not doing it good enough for the people that like you, but make sure you're doing it good enough for the people that hate you. And I was like, wow, what?
That's a very interesting and challenging way to put it.
Well, it was wise. So I approached this in that manner. So how do I make it to where if people that don't like me try to scrutinize it, they're left with their pants down around their ankles, kind of thing, So that's what we worked on, and I partnered with. He's come in, he's helped me. I've worked with Pixel Trader, who knows a lot, Ray Haylock, who knows a lot. I've learned things that I didn't know before.
I see
so
Pixel Trader in the chat. Hail, sir. Good to see you.
Pixel does ask just as many questions, and so I wanted to make sure that this thing was secure and ready to go and feasible long term. Once we got 1, 2, 3 years down the road, we were going to be good. In fact, the plan was that this was only going to be the beginning because I had some other ideas, and I still do, and we have other things that we're going to kind of springboard into other areas. One of the things that I would like this to evolve into is print on demand retail distribution. It is exactly what it sounds like, and so I'm working on that. We're working on that to make that a possibility. But first things first, we're trying to make the site work. Now, I will tell you that in the process of doing all that, I learned a lot. In fact, what I like to do, I like to play dumb a lot so that people... Did you ever watch that show, Columbo?
I've seen clips here and there. It was just a little bit before my time for me to appreciate it. But for what little I've seen is always...
yeah, my mom
it's
used
always,
to watch
it's always
it
a
all the time.
delight. And every Thursday, Columbo rolls around on my Twitter timeline. If you know, you know.
Yeah. My mom used to watch it a lot, and so I'd watch it with her. And there was one thing about Columbo that I always loved. He would play an idiot. Through the whole episode, he would ask these questions that sound like dumb questions. And because he sounded so stupid, and people they weren't thinking much, they just told him everything. And then at the end, he's like, okay, well, here's how it worked out. He had all the answers, all the clues were all there. And all the pieces fell into place, and they realized that this weird looking guy in the trench coat wasn't as stupid as they played him off to be.
I
And
always
so,
appreciated when at the very end, just when they think they got away with it, he turns around. If I could just ask one more
one more
question,
question.
one
Yeah.
more question, just
It's always
and then
asking
nails them,
questions.
and then nails. Yeah, that was always a great little
It's always that
procedural.
questions. So that's what I
Yeah,
started doing. I just started asking questions. I started playing Columbo, right? And I wanted people to think that I didn't know what I was doing. Because I still kind of don't know what I'm doing, right? But I wanted to, I wanted people to just give me kind of the dumbed down version of things and give me a little bit of insider baseball kind of stuff. And I got it. And I learned a lot. I talked with lawyers and bankers and developers, and I learned a lot. And I tried to put it all into action with this thing. And I'm still learning. I'm still asking questions and still getting better at it. And so, because I wanted something that was going to be secure for me and my friends to use, but I wanted to make sure that it was strong enough for my enemies too. You know?
inevitably, you will end up getting detractors in the vein of Eric July, and he may have possibly the most virulent and dumbest detractors on the internet I
Really,
have
yeah.
ever seen. It is a daily circus with these clowns, and I cannot
Yeah.
imagine wasting so much of my time and energy just to
I
dunk
can't believe
on
he does that.
one guy.
Yeah, I can't
There's
believe he does
YouTubers
that.
I don't like. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if Movie Bob wasn't a thing, it wasn't a channel anymore. But I'm not going to dedicate my time and energy to being the Movie Bob Sucks channel and riding on every post that he makes and trying to do what I can to make sure everybody knows how awful he does pretty well enough making sure everyone knows how awful he is. But
Yeah.
uh, but you see my point.
Yeah. Oh,
Much
it's
as
going to happen. And I know
yeah,
I'm going. Here's the thing. I've already planned that I'm going to mostly ignore that.
Edward says
Because,
Twitter is fun and it's cheaper than therapy. Therapy, thank you. For those, just I'll give you a second. Just for those who are popped up again, I'm having technical difficulties on my end. I can't click on anything. I can't bring up the chat and I can't bring up the site. And it's actually frozen on my TV, on my screen. So I'm looking at my phone. We're still streaming though, so I don't know how I'm going to end the stream at this point. I may have to just hard reboot my computer. That ought to be interesting.
right.
But we're going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
So. Um,
But yeah,
Fun time.
I've determined that I'm not going to waste my time fighting those people.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's fun to snipe at detractors for a little while, but inevitably, what they want you to do is waste all your precious time and energy. And to the extent there are some people in the creative space who take that to such an extent that they try and turn it into a feature of their channels or their Twitter feed. And while it's fun to snipe at people every now and then, they're learning to walk away and just telling them to pound sand after a while is what has to be done. And it's not just the mature thing to do, but it's for your own mental health. It's the best thing to do.
thanks, James.
We're not always in the spot where we can monetize our haters, and I don't really think monetizing any detractors I could potentially have would be
Well,
the most productive way. I like to put it like this: if some people put as much energy into their actual creation as they do dogging on people on social media, you could have blown people away by now. You could have blown
right,
people you hate away.
right.
That's one thing.
There are so many people right now, especially in these early stages, that are jumping on board and saying, look, I know that it's a new site. I know that, whatever, but I'm jumping in and this is where I'm at. I owe them all of my energy that's not spent drawing pages for people or coloring pages for people, on making sure that the site is functioning not only okay, but running at its peak performance, and that I'm offering the customer service to each and every one of the people that come in the best that we absolutely can, and training new people to be able to do what I'm doing and do what Todd does which we're in the process of doing, because as we grow, we're gonna have to, right? So let me say this, John. We are 3 or 4 months ahead of where we thought we would be at this point. We had anticipated launching in January, but we were having trouble with the second developer that we went to that had some big lofty ideas and plans, but was never able to deliver. So we went back to an earlier developer to work on things to make this thing happen, and we weren't able to launch until, like I said, 6 weeks ago. So Friday, I think this Friday will be 6 weeks. I'm pretty sure 6. It's either 6 or 7, but I think it's 6. I think last week was 5. It's getting to the point to where I'm not going to be able to remember forever on how long it's been, right?
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. So we were thinking that, where we would be now, we would have, 5 or 10 campaigns up running, that we would have raised, a few $100s. But that's not where we're at right now. We are running, I believe, 30 campaigns, almost 30 campaigns that are live. We have raised almost $5,000. If you're counting, that's about $1,000 a week that we're raising on a platform that no one knows about. The platform is paying for itself. Like literally, it's paying for itself, and has already paid for some of the upgrades, some of the new stuff that we're wanting to add to it. Some of the new features that we want to add are quite hefty. We're talking 80 to 100 hours worth of development time, and so it's going to be a minute before we can get those going in there. But we've already started to. We've got most of the little bugs worked out that we thought we were going to have, and it's running so smoothly that I have not had to deal with anything breaking or anything major this week. Which that's a big deal. I'm like that's,
Yeah.
You think, well, you should never have to deal with that. No, it's web programming. You're always going to have things.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
especially after something first launches, inevitably there are going to be hiccups and glitches and things like that to contend with. I've always been very understanding of that myself. I mentioned DDP Yoga earlier. They launched their own app several years ago, and I've been a member of that for quite some time. When it first launched, it worked for the most part, but you have little glitches here and there, and some people, when they run across a glitch or a hiccup in something as technical like I'm experiencing right now, they get all bent out of shape about it, and they want to raise Cain about it. And I've never been that way. I give a little understanding, just say, hey, this isn't working. Giving you a little technical report on it, and let whoever's working on it, try and fix it. Give it a chance, as if computer programming is like the smoothest application that's ever comes along. It's never been that way, not from my observation.
Well, you got to think, when you're programming web stuff, I mean, you've got to try to make it work on every browser and every individual person's kind of thing, that they're working with. And I mean, even StreamYard right now is giving you trouble, right? And we all trust StreamYard to stream with, for the most part. And it's just how it is. Sometimes you'll run into those issues, but the site's been super secure. It is running well. The biggest problem that we had was dealing with a troll in the last week. That's the biggest problem that we've had. The site has functioned, once we got through that first 2 weeks, has functioned beautifully. I'm very happy with our developers. They're doing a fantastic job on anything that I have to escalate. They're taking care of like right away. I can't, I mean, and honestly, I did all of this so that I could fund my own campaigns.
Right. And not have to worry about people who are online, people who have a vendetta against you, right, trying to raise a Twitter internet mob against you and get you kicked off of the platform. And that's to me, that's the most important part of this is that 10,000 blue-haired land whales on Twitter can get as mad all they want at you. They can't come on to fund my comic and write a mass report campaign and get you booted off because like they can on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Even if they can't get them booted off. Well, the thing that it pissed me off the most, and I don't remember which indie comic creator it was recently who found out that their campaign was it was shadow banned to the highest extent that you could not even access the campaign without the direct link to the campaign from the person running it. Like that is scummy to me. And
not only that, there's people that they're having their money withheld.
Yes.
It's funded. Release the funds. They're not doing that. So I wanted to make sure that we were doing something that allowed for that to happen, but I didn't want to just make an IGG clone. I wanted something that was geared towards what we do as far as books, comics, games, the creative world, because you can do novels and stuff on there too.
Yeah.
That was the first question. I had a novelist say, "Luke, can I fund my book on there?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can fund anything. If you have
fund your comic, fund your tabletop RPG." I was glad to see that there was a setting for that, and I think the tabletop RPG world is really in a lot of disarray at the moment, and having a place for that because there's a lot of contention between different factions of tabletop gaming.
There's a lot of contention everywhere.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get away from that. I wanted to have something that was going to allow creators to kind of take their future in their own hands and get away from all of that stupid contention stuff. Here's an example. We had, you might have seen that meme going around. It was kind of went viral a little bit, where the guy claimed that it was a AI wrote how it's something about trans women, ma'am, I am, or whatever.
I think I've seen pictures of that. Yeah.
He actually wrote that. It wasn't those AIs wouldn't write that for you, by the way. They're
controlled.
They're controlled. Yeah, they're not going to write that. So he actually, he wrote it, but they turned it into a book, and it's funding on Fund My Comic right now. It's been up for about 22 hours, and when he sent that thing for review, I knew that this is going to be probably pretty contentious for some people. They're going to be the seethers out there, the blue-haired land whales, as you refer to them. They're going to have a problem with this. And so we went back and forth, and I asked questions. I said, "You're going to need to answer this question, that the campaign needs to show kind of where you're at with these things, just so that when someone comes, basically it's when someone comes to me to complain, hey, you can't believe you have that on your platform." And I'm like, well, it made it through approval, so it's fine.
I would say you're welcome to put up your own. You're welcome to put up your own counter on the platform.
Yeah,
that's the one thing they never do. They never want to offer. They never want to offer the creative counter to it. They just want it to go away. They just don't want it to not exist, and they don't want you to be able to make money. And the people who say cancel culture does not exist are the same people who use it to excess at times.
Right.
My latest technical glitch, I can see there's chats rolling in, but they are blank for me. I can't see how many people are watching, but I can see the counter, how long we've been online. The only thing on my screen moving is the chat and the timer. I know we're at 1 hour and 5 minutes. So
the last one was from Herman P. Hunter. I can't believe he has that on his platform. Yeah, I've got that. Pixel Trader says, F those shadow banners. Then we got some links coming up here. Yep.
Hell the Lore is a wonderful mod, and I very much appreciate him.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. How am I in the stream? Well, anyway, technical issues aside, that I think is probably the best thing about it is you're able to make what you want. And I do hope that if, Fund My Comic becomes the center of a lot of negative attention because of your refusal to pull something off that you don't want to. Because what do we have here? We have a platform where you're given, like we had in the old days, where it's you make what you want, you put it out there, and if somebody wants it, they buy it. Now that's the free market. It always, at least to me, it's always has been. If you've got something you think people will buy, whether it's something you want to stand on your own merits, or whether it's something that's made specifically to poke the middle finger at group of people you don't like, you got to be allowed to make that if you want.
Right.
But the people that want to take away from you your ability to do that, to me, that's a form of control, and that's never something that's sat comfortable with me.
Yeah, it's censorship is what it is, and I hate censorship. Look, if you like it, buy it. If you don't, scroll on, man. Scroll on. You know how much stuff that I see online that I don't like? How many times I would like to just keyboard warrior it, but I don't. I just walk away from it. I just scroll away. I'm too busy. You said about, those guys that spend so much of their effort focused on trying to dunk on somebody. When we do get those haters and those detractors, which, we've already started to garner some of them with Fund My Comic, I'm not going to engage much with them. I'll be respectful to an extent, but for the most part, man, I've got to focus on taking care of the people that are using the site, making sure there's a lot of work, regular daily maintenance that has to happen with this thing, and so we're focusing on that, training new people to be able to help out with the admin work. And then, I've got my clients and I've got my own projects that I'm doing. I've not been able to get the funding that I want for my Hybrids double feature. I've got the trade paperback and the RPG that we did, and I've not been able to really even bring a focus to it, any attention to it, because I've been working so hard on the site. First off, just to get it launched, then now, kind of that grind to let people know what we're doing.
Yeah, and I was scanning that last night while I was looking through the site, and I love the look of it. And I'll probably help fund that, because
Appreciate that.
like to play some RPGs around the house, me and my kids, and I would definitely show that on the stream if I was not having these technical issues. I don't understand.
It is a great RPG, and Nick did such a great job working on that. We're going to take it to print here in May, so that we can get things shipped off in June. And the game is great. The new trade paperback for the Killing Field arc is great, and I'm getting ready to start book 10. But I'm also getting ready to. I'm 1 page into a 10-page book that I need to get done by next week. Today, and then I've got a large graphic novel that I'm working on. That's going to be long term for somebody. But we're getting ready to do Chrome Dog, the rest of issue number 1. We're getting ready to start on that here very soon. And so we got a lot of great stuff coming out, right? Now,
Yeah.
I can't get any of that done if I'm wasting time arguing with the crabs in the crack bucket, man. That's all they want to do, is just pull you right back down to where they are. They don't want you to succeed.
Yeah,
You've got to break away from that.
I always like the term ankle biter. To me, it's always a little more applicable, not just the crabs in a bucket, but ankle biter, because they're biting for attention, right?
Yeah.
They just want the attention from you, and if you acknowledge them, they've kind of succeeded. But
that's
every
why
now
we
and
call them
then-
the crabs. I don't know if you've ever seen the crab bucket. It's
I'm a Cajun, believe me. I've seen crabs in a bucket.
Those things, they're just so focused on each other that none of them can get out, And I wanted Fund My Comic to be the anti-crab bucket solution.
Crabs actually push each other out the bucket in this case.
Yeah, like let's help each other. Let's boost each other. People talked about traffic a lot. Man, I answered a lot of questions about traffic. And I said, look, think of a bucket, and everyone's got a glass of water. That's your audience. If everybody brings their audience to one bucket, everything that's in that bucket gets flooded. Everything that's in that bucket that floats rises, And so we have an opportunity to create our own parallel, not just economy, not just infrastructure, but our entire sales and marketing aspect. We have the ability to break away from the stupid and from the grind of plan of the plan, of following the script that they have written for us, and do it ourselves. Do it our own way. And that excites me. That excites me to be a part of something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, me just wanting to be, making my own comics and being left alone, what started out as that has turned into, let's be a movement. This whole Iron Age thing, let's be that. Let's be this new age of comic books and writing and culture that is better than what we complain about, because there's plenty to complain about. But let's not just be stuck in the complaining all day, every day. Let's get out there and do something about it.
Because inevitably, when it comes to, and as cathartic as it is to watch our favorite channels rip down these properties that have been just mismanaged and badly written so much over the past 3-4 years or longer, as cathartic as that is, and as much as it can bring attention to the fact that it's subpar compared to what we used to get in the past, inevitably you have to have creators who are just tired of the status quo, and they do what Thanos did. Fine, I'll do it myself. And creating the infrastructure for those indie titles to succeed, that really that's a really important part, and that's a big part, and that's why I'm happy to help Signal Boost fund my comic as an alternative to places that a lot of us have been beholden to. I have no doubt that if Eric July had tried to put crowdfund his ISOM comic on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, it either would have gotten the same shadow ban or it would have been kicked off the platform and no reason given.
Something would have happened, yeah.
Yeah, something would have happened. Even doing it on his own, PayPal tried to mess with his money, like holding $1.6 million of that guy's money that he earned. That's
you want to know that's why we are not using PayPal? We had the ability to choose PayPal as our processor, and we're like, no, because PayPal allows politics and on things. Stripe so far has not. Maybe there's a couple of stories out there where, well, Stripe did this or whatever, but a lot of times it comes down to paperwork. Making sure that you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed.
Yeah.
And so we've talked with lawyers and bankers to make sure we have all of that. And then that's why we have our terms of service to operate the way that we do, so that we're secure with that. But we said no to someone that's going to hold money. For what reason did they have to hold his money? None.
I'm going to go address the chat real quick. What could be bad? Is this stream on Rumble too? It is. I am simul-streaming to Rumble and Odyssey. I don't know if that's got anything to do with the technical issues I'm having. I've done it before without any issues. I think it's just my computer decided to pause in the middle of a hiccup or something. Black Hat Cinephile says the mainstream is practically handing us the keys. And I agree with that. They are, because the cream rises to the top. Inevitably, to me, people will... normies are going to normie. They're going to go on with whatever slop they're fed. But what's true, people who are understand and have the ability to critically think are, looking at a lot and going, this is all this kind of sucks now. And they're just going to walk away from it. Like I walked away from cable in 2020. I have not had cable for 3 years. I don't even have network TV. All my entertainment comes from fellow YouTubers and independent content that people create. So I think that, we are primed to take advantage of a culture of people who are dying for entertainment and, rise up and be able to say, here, I've got something. You want something that's like what you loved? This is just as good, or if not better. Abomination AJ, thanks for dropping in. I'm having technical issues and I can't bring up anything on the screen. It's all frozen on my end, but we're still streaming, so we're going to keep rolling with it.
Keep rolling with it.
Yeah.
I do got to get my numbers up, Jason. I got 3 pages done today. I'm going to try to get 4 done. Try to get one more done before bed.
I hate that I'm taking away from your comic drawing at the moment.
I was working while we were talking.
That's it, man. The hustle never stops.
If you hear that scratchy noise, that's me drawing. That's me drawing on the thing.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little jealous. When you make your comics, do you write them and draw them, or you just draw them?
My books I write and draw, but I just draw other people's books that they write too. So the books I'm working on right now, someone else wrote.
I gotta confess, I am jealous. Like, if there was one thing I wish I could do, it would be to be able to take the characters and the things that I envision in my head and write them down myself, draw them out the way I see them in my head. But because I have dysgraphia, which is a offshoot of dyslexia, I can't draw anything even remotely in a straight line. Like, whatever talent I may have as a writer is completely inverse when it comes to drawing. Like, even if I stopped what I was doing now and I dedicated the rest of my life to trying to be an artist, I could not possibly be 1/10 where I'm at. So, my canvas is the mind, and I write the words and I help people imagine what I'm trying to imagine. So, I wish I could draw. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, Kirby was.
I'm a little jealous, man.
Yeah, Kirby did 9 pages a day.
Golly.
So that's my goal, and I'm so far from that. 3 or 4 pages a day, when I'm doing other stuff, is about average for me. One day I got 5 pages done in one day. I would like to be able to do that every day, but I can comfortably do about 9 pages a week right now.
That's pretty prolific for a comic writer. Am I mistaken?
I think so, but I mean, if you were to listen to, Malin, I don't think I'm fast enough for him. I think his expectation is more. Yeah, I think his expectation is more.
I guess to me that's pretty impressive. That's managing to get a good bit out at the very least. The equivalent of on the novel end would be like, because some novelists like to put, I got down about 5,000 words. Some people get like the average for some novelists is like 5,000 to 8,000 words a day. Me, if I sat down and I have no distractions and I actually really focus, I can hit that in maybe about 10,000. Some people can do more. We like to. Was that tone you or me?
That was me.
Okay, just making sure, because I don't know what my computer's trying to do while it's apparently hiccuping to death. But prolific writing, prolific drawing. A lot of that comes from different wells, but a lot of it from the same creative well. Us as creators, it feels like there's just not enough time in the day to really get out the kind of productivity we would love to. You know what I'm saying? I know you probably wish you could spit out an entire comic in a day.
Well, I could write a whole script in a day. But I mean, when you're writing a script, I mean, it's not that many words. You're writing 30 pages, 28 to 30 pages, and it's drawing it that takes forever. That's pictures take a long time. People don't realize that, how long they take. And now if I did more detail, more scissor hatching, cross hatching and things like that, then I wouldn't be able to get as many pages done a day. But I work with 2 colorists primarily, and I know what they're going to do with colors, so I can kind of reduce some of that detail, knowing that they're gonna cover in some of that ground that I normally would. If I give them the basically, like, this is, as long as they know where my cast shadows at, where my light sources are, they're good. I mean, that's why I work with them. That's why
Yeah.
they're my
Well-oiled
go-tos.
machine.
Yeah, that's why they're my go-tos. And so I do pages, then I send them over to them, and then they get them done, and then so that's how we work, and I like doing that. And
Do you only draw for clients, or do you occasionally be like, I'm going to draw something for myself. I'm gonna draw a Wolverine with turkey legs instead of claws, or something like that.
I used to. I do warm-ups. Yeah, I'll do warm-up in the morning. That's normally something just fun, and I'll draw some fan art of something, and then I'll move on to client work. But right now I haven't done them. My warm-up has been, they've been real quick and just kind of sketches. Because I've also started adding traditional art into my workflow, because we're finding that people want to buy the original artwork. And so for more money, I will actually do the pages traditional and then scan them. But then we'll use the traditional pages to sell on the crowdfunding campaigns.
A little bit of extra, you can own the actual pages that you
Yeah,
drew it,
yeah.
not
So I'm
just the,
doing the cover. I'm doing a cover that way for one project, 5 pages interior for one project, and then 2 pages of the new Chrome Dog. Of the rest of the Chrome Dog book will be traditional, so that we can sell those.
Yeah, I'm in touch with the creator of Chrome Dog, and he's wanting to come on, and I'll probably have him on the next few weeks to help out with that, make sure one, that the stream actually works, but
Right.
two, they'll be able to pump fund my comic a little bit, because that's where it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
available. Um, Again, everybody's listening. I haven't seen anyone new rolling in the chat, and I'm very vexed by this technical issues, and I apologize that I keep focusing on. All I can
It's
see is my
okay.
screen, and I want to click on everything, but I don't want to end the stream.
Right. Yeah. It's like if I click on everything, will I break it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the most likely thing, and I may have to just break it to in the broadcast, but whatever. It'll still show up, and I want to get you while you're. I want to get your time in while you're here.
I
Um,
appreciate it. Thanks for sharing
no,
your
no,
platform with me to
this
talk about this.
this is exactly what the Signal Boost is here for. I have two major live streams. This for independent creators, be they as you noticed in the intro, comics, books, tabletop games, hopefully one day potentially gaming. The chance for everyone to people to find something that they haven't found or didn't know about beforehand. That to me is probably the biggest mission for this live stream and the author's outpost, which is for indie authors and maybe one day comic writers, is for someone to find someone new. And it's to me, it's this networking between the different wheelhouses that we have to that really help bring things about, because all the best things in life have always come about by word of mouth. What's the greatest what's the greatest the what is it, well, hold on, I'm thinking here. What's the greatest independent comic ever made?
Is it Ninja Turtles? The
it is
Crow?
it is Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
What did they do? They borrowed money to make a few. I don't know how many copies of the comic they made, but they sold out of them, and word got.
I think they made 15,000 copies.
That's
They
not
took their
bad.
tax checks
And
to
they make
make
it.
to make a big run of black and
And
white comics. Yeah.
look at what that investment plus word of mouth generated. A franchise that goes to this day. It's had its ups and downs because they're not really the primary guys in charge of it anymore, and I don't really blame them. But look what happened. They're set for life if they want to just live it off the residuals. But
And they are. I mean,
a
hopefully one of
good
these days they'll be.
creative, though, a good creative is never going to sit still unless you're
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin.
Yeah. Dude, no, I know that one day Fund My Comic will it will outlive me. Like it will outgrow me. I understand that. I know one day that if I want to keep drawing comic books the way that I am now, working for people, then I'm not going to be able to CEO this thing forever. But that's okay. I'll send a proxy to the board meetings.
You've got to hopefully someone of like mind about it.
Yeah,
I
that's going to be the real trick is finding people that love comic books and games and the art of just the art of sequential storytelling, the art of storytelling in general. Just to be focused on that and not allow money to blind them, because we could do a few things that the others do. We could charge 5%. We don't. We charge 3. We wanted to charge 2, but we couldn't go that low. It just wasn't feasible to go that low.
right.
We could hold all the money and escrows for ourselves before we disperse it, so that we gain interest on all that. But that's not fair. That's you. I think that's. Oh, they only ran 3,000 copies. Oh, I thought they ran a lot more than that. Wow.
Of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
That's still a respectable size, and considering
It
it
is.
was
Yeah.
spread around in just one city. And like I
Yeah.
said, look what that leads to. And you never. I have this saying. There's actually two ways to say it, but the way I like to say it is, you never know until you get in over your head. You never know how tall you are.
I like that.
Um,
I like that.
because there are things that sometimes opportunity knocks you. You've got to know when to come up. But I'm like you when it comes to things like this. When it comes to recognizing that something is not working, and you just have to jump in and realize, well, okay, nobody else has taken the reins of this. I should
Just got
just
to
go
do it
ahead and do
myself.
it
Yeah.
myself. I learned that with vacations. One of the first vacations I ever took. I let somebody else kind of take charge with that, and it wound up being a very disappointing trip to New York City. And ever since then, when it comes to vacations, I plan it and I micro plan it and I micromanage that whole sucker. And they usually, and sometimes I'm a little stressed out, and a lot of times I'm kind of frustrated, and there's always expenses that pop up that I didn't account for, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'll be paying this off later in the bills. But when all's said and done, the wife had a good time, the kids had a good time. I got to relax a little, go somewhere I don't normally go. So to me, at that point, all the hassle is worth it, because on the other end of things, all your hard work and everything you've done paid off in spades, because it made someone else's life better, and it made someone else's enjoyment of something better. It's how I look at it when it comes to my books, and I imagine that's how you look at it when it comes to your comics as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love making comics. So we're getting ready to start shipping out Rift Riders this week. So Rift Riders came in the mail. What was it? Thursday last Thursday. And I don't know, this is like book 20 that I've printed, that I've had my hand in.
It's been going a long time, huh?
Yeah, and it's not old, man. I tell you, I got open that book. I was excited. I looked at it. I smelled it. I was giddy. My kids laughed at me, because they're like, Daddy, every book, you're the same way every time. I'm like, yeah, it never gets old for me. And I just got word from the printer that Mad Ruth's book, Soltak, is printed, and it's at the binders. So they're binding this week. They expect to ship out early next week. And I'm like, man, I can't wait, because I'm getting the books here because we're handling U.S. distribution for him through Arrow Comics, and then he's getting a bunch of books shipped to his house, so that he can have them up there in Canada in the Great White North. And I'm like, I can't wait for him to get them, because it's his first book. I can't wait for him to grab those books and be able to see them, smell them, lick the spine if he wants to, whatever floats his boat. But yeah. I mean,
Looking forward to that when my book, The Black Crown, launches. I'll have to get my author copies in and finally be able to hold my book that I wrote in my hand. I look forward to that feeling. And, I think a lot of normies, even comic normies, don't really understand how big and booming the indie comic scene is right now, especially online, whether it's because they avoid Twitter or it's because they're not so invested in comics that they don't look at anything past the surface level of what the big two provide. To them, what the big two provide is comics, and that's all there is. But the indie comics is, from my perspective, is what I've seen the last year and 2 years, is there's so much that I at times cannot keep up with it. My wallet damn sure can't keep up with a lot of it. And I hate having to be like, oh gosh, I got to cherry pick which campaign to back, and I got to explain to the wife why I dropped $30 on this. What did you order for $30? It's something I'm going to review for the channel, hon. It's okay. And then she knows I'm trying to build my channel.
Yeah, it is tough trying to decide what you're going to spend your money on. And that's why I'm always grateful for every person that gives their money to something that I've worked on, because it takes a lot of hours sometimes to pay for those things.
Yeah,
it really does.
It does. And, sometimes it's time away from the family. In your case, though you are, it's your primary income at the moment. But being an indie creator and being able to both pay your bills with and do what you love for a living, that's a lot of creators' dreams. Not one that all of us, even the indie authors, end up getting to do. Is there's a lot of investment that'll go into an indie book in the same way. I will give an example here. I'm looking. Okay, I don't see the book I was looking for. I'll bring up The Seventh Cage. It's one of my favorites of the past few years. Kind of hard to position this. Years of writing and investing in editing, investing in a cover artist who made cards for the Magic the Gathering game. So they wouldn't cheat. But this is the love that indie authors put into theirs as well. And indie comic creators not going to be any different. They want to put in. Everybody wants to put in the kind of quality work that they want to see in themselves, to the best extent that they possibly can. So, and I see that in the indie comic space. Everybody making what they want, whether it's a kind of jokey comic or whether it's something 100% serious. They want to see something that they haven't seen anywhere else. They want to see something that they couldn't get from the big two. And there's no barrier between you and what you create and your audience. That's always been the absolute best aspect of being an indie creator. There's no barrier. It's you, your fans, your customers, and no one in between you. Can you hear me?
It's roboting.
Okay.
I don't know if it's you or me.
I noticed it's roboted a little bit, somewhat. There, well, my wife was walking through talking to someone. Am I freezing? I do apologize to everyone. You did not freeze, and I don't think you can hear me. Let me.
I can hear you now.
Are we good?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Did anything I say go through? I went off on a spiel.
A little
bit.
Okay.
No barrier between the creators and their customers and fans. So.
Yeah, I like that. I like having, when you're, we complain about, especially on Nerd Bacon, we complain about the diamond model all the time. That you're selling to Diamond because Diamond's selling to the stores, and the stores are selling to the readers, and the publishers are producing crap, which isn't selling to the readers, and stores are suffering. Well, when Twitter put the fan and the publisher face to face, almost, virtually, they didn't like it. They didn't like that. But some of us do like that. Some of us do want to hear from our fans on what you think we're doing. How do you think we're doing? What do you want to see more of? What do you see one less of?
Yeah. What worked? What didn't work?
Yeah.
and that kind of feedback is critical because in the past that kind of feedback would kind of come filtered through your editor who would kind of condense everything, or they would just tell you what they wanted. You would
Yeah.
have to make and I imagine that was frustrating for a lot of comic creators who were on the ground level, drawing this stuff every day, and the editors are coming in and saying, look, I know you like doing it this way, but we need you to do it this other way instead. you know uh, and then you got to choose between your creative freedom and your paycheck, and that's never a great choice. And that's led to a lot of alternatives that have blossomed into groundswells that bring about really good things. Don Bluth left. He was a Disney animator, and he was tired of the way Disney did things. He wanted to do the stuff that he wanted to do. He left and he created his own animation studio, and he made some of the best animated movies of the 80s and some of the 90s.
Yeah.
The guys that formed Image Comics arguably did that, and they were producing stuff that was game changing during the 90s. Stuff that had DC and Marvel kind of changing the way they did things and what they made, because they were trying to jump on the darker, grittier bandwagon that all their talent fled to. What happened when
what's keeping us from doing that again?
Yeah, nothing. And
Right.
even what's more, now we have the tools at our fingertips to be able to facilitate that uh, in the easiest way possible since that era. And removing that kind of barrier, one of the barriers being uh, a mob that would want whatever you're making to get taken down, like what happened with Blaine Lee Pardoe of BattleTech fame. I don't know if you remember that
Yeah.
controversy. Blaine was on my
Yeah.
first episode of the Author's Outpost, and like I told him, as long as you got fans, you're not really canceled. And he's already put out since that uh, since that cancellation was successful. He's already put out an entire trilogy of books, and the man's very prolific, and he's a very good sci-fi military writer. I heartily recommend him. Uh, he's already come out with 3 books that are wildly successful in his space. So that barrier being the cancel driven how do I want to phrase this? You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The cancel culture that tried to take him off the button, that barrier is gone now, and he's got a publisher that's on his side. And really being able to stand up against people that say you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, we want this gone, because it's not just censorship, it's control. Being able to just stand up and say no, piss off.
My prediction is the same thing that happened with Comicsgate, where they created a narrative that is kind of not what the majority of those people in that space are. I see that they're going to probably do the same thing with Iron Age and any other movement that has any kind of success
Yes.
outside of their script, their mainstream script. And I think that the normie fan is starting to see around it. They're starting to realize that it doesn't matter what you call it, these people are going to be against it because they see the money going away from them. And the reason why I think this is true is because look at what TikTok and YouTube have done. It has made stars out of nobodies. Right? Before, you used to have to be a part of a Screen Actors Guild. You had to be all this. You had to go to school. You had to know the right people. You had to go to the clubs and do your stand-up. You had to go by their script in order to get in. You had to go by their
success that they put in place.
Yes.
And when you succeed outside of that,
yeah,
they resent you for it. Look at it,
Yeah.
like Eric July. What do all the virtue signalers, what do they say? We need more black comic creators. And then Eric July succeeds to the extent that he does, and it's just hopping mad. Never one mention on CBR.com, the biggest so-called comic comic book website. Not one mention. And the writers on the writers for that website on social media openly hating him and his fans.
Well, CBR is never going to talk about Fun My Comic. They're never going to
Nope.
mention it. In fact, I mean, I'm probably not going to get many outlets talking about what I'm doing over here because it does it, and even that it upsets even people within the independent sphere. You know, it's like it's doing something that people said that we needed. It's doing something that is risky as all get out. You know, in fact, one of the things that was said when I started to do it. So, well, Luke, you're really putting your neck out there on this one. If this fails, it could pretty much ruin your reputation. I'm like, yeah, it could. You're damn right it could. You know, so that's one of the things that I've been aware of. And when I'm working with choosing my partners, especially in the development phase, I'm like, guys, you don't realize my name's on the line, not yours. My reputation's on the line. I'm the one that's using the change up in my pocket. I'm going to be living off of credit here soon. If, we've got to make this thing happen. And, there for a while, I went ahead while we were waiting on the developers. I went ahead and launched the double feature over on Indiegogo. And people weren't backing. They're like, well, I don't feel like I should back it, and I should wait for Fund My Comic, right? And I was like, well, go ahead and back it now, because I need, because we want to publish this book. And so people thought that they were, that we were competing against ourselves by having it up somewhere else, right? And I realized then it's like, man, if we don't, like, they're right. They're telling the truth. We've Fund My Comic's got to happen, It's needed. It's a must. It's kind of a must in the community. But if anybody would have done it, they would have been putting their reputation on the line with it. And so it was nerve-wracking. It still is nerve-wracking. When you think about all the stuff that could potentially go wrong. When you're a planner like me, you think about all those things. But it's disrupting even people in the independent area, because they're like, I'm learning a few things. One, they wish they would have done it themselves. Two, they think they could do it better than me. Or three, they think there's a need for it, but they don't really want to do the work to help the movement become the movement, right?
Right.
They want to wait until the movement is moving, and then they want to jump on the train, right? And
I think that kind of harkens to a lot of people's mentality that everybody loves a winner, and the fear of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not always a lot of people who want to jump on they don't want to jump on the wagon unless they know exactly where it's going is going to be, like you said, the winning destination.
Right.
And I think if you can get the kind of organic groundswell of support, that can definitely happen. People, more people will jump on like, oh, this is working. Look at that. That's working. I want to be a part of that now. Some people, I guess you could say they look at a rocket and they don't know if it's going to take off or if it's just going to tilt over and crash. So rather than take the risk at the start, which is something I prefer personally, I like being in on the ground floor when it comes to, projects and things like that, because I like to be able to be there from the beginning. I hate having to go back. In the same way with TV shows, I hate having to be 3 seasons in and have to go back and catch up, Luke, since I ain't got no other way I can't access my private chat because of the technical issues, I'm going to say, would you mind talking about Fund My Comic for a second while I take a quick bio break and come right back?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm going to go ahead and I'll be right back.
So Pixel Trader has it exactly right. I was in the right place at the right time. It just kind of fell into my lap. In the endeavors to find something more secure than a WordPress site, and to avoid Shopify. I don't like Shopify and I don't like Spotify. They can go F themselves-ify. So I don't really care for those platforms at all. So I wanted to avoid that. In my efforts to find an alternative for those that I could plug directly into my website, I found an infrastructure that worked. And so that, is really kind of the joy of it is I found it by accident, and it's working. It's just one of the things where it was just I almost felt like with the Blues Brothers, we're on a mission from God, so we got to do it. I'm pretty excited to see about where we're going to be in a year from now. Hojo says, in the end, for the consumer, there's no risk. It's the same risk as buying a potential grift at an extremely late book. That's right. The only risk is to myself and Todd, and then to the creator. The creator has to say, well, I'm going to assume some risk that, if I launch on Fund My Comic, I might not make the same amount of money that I would if I launched on Indiegogo or Kickstarter. But one of the things we have to understand is the number of backers that we bring to our campaigns are typically on us. We bring anywhere between 70 to 90% of the traffic to our campaign is direct traffic. Now, Indiegogo will lie about how much of that traffic they've actually provided. And when you really dig into the numbers, you find out that their number, the percentage they take credit for, is seriously padded. And it's really you that's brought attention there. So really the risk then comes down to the platform. Are you going to get your money? And now we're already proving that creators are getting their money. Anybody that's stepped up to this thing so far, if you're running a continuous campaign or keep it all, you've already started getting payouts from your work. And there's already people getting digital rewards on the platform. And right now, anybody that's backed some of the books and that are out there are actually getting physical rewards or going out actually within the next few weeks, which is pretty exciting stuff. So it's just a matter of, do you want to be a part of the movement? Do you want to put in the effort to help bring the traffic to this new home and say, this is where we're funding now. We're not going to be on Indiegogo anymore. We're not going to be on Kickstarter anymore. This is our home now. That really is I think that's the piece that falls into your guys' laps is, are you going to be that piece of the puzzle? Are you going to be the ones that say, this is where I crowdfund now? Because you will assume some risk. I mean, if you've got a titty book, it's probably going to do pretty good on Kickstarter, because the horny guys are over on Kickstarter buying titty books left and right. So I get it. I kind of have a feeling they're going to start coming to Fund My Comic. Just to be fair.
We've already got the one on there, the Canadian one. I forgot the title.
Yeah, Canadian Tussle. Yeah,
Canadian Tussle. I was like, oh, it looked like a long lost Ren and Stimpy episode with the art style that it had. I was like, huh, interesting.
It looks really good. He decided he was gonna go full Fund My Comic, and so that's where he's at now. If Pixel says, I'll sell my titty book on Kickstarter later, yeah. But here's the thing: as soon as those creators realize that they can say, when they realize that their audience is going to follow them, no matter what, that's what you have to realize. Your fans are going to follow you. Your 70 to 90% of the traffic that you bring, they're going to follow you. It doesn't matter where you go. There's no risk to them to back you on Fund My Comic or Kickstarter. It's so easy to back on Fund My Comic that it's a no-brainer for them. It doesn't matter to them, okay?
And I think that's really what people are looking for. This sentiment is in a lot of the indie space, especially for those who are much more on the conservative side of the culture war. Like, damn it, I don't have a place where my conservative Christian comic book could be funded. It'll potentially get kicked off if they find out what I believe. And just as much as it could be someone who sees you and thinks, oh, you're a Jason. I've been called Comics Gate. And like, if you would do 2 seconds of research, you'd realize I don't have any comics out. But because of who you associate with, it's an instant label, and they're comforted by that kind of thing. I would even think that, even someone who disagrees with you, who just doesn't like the corporate structure of Kickstarter and Indiegogo, will be like, I kind of want to make something, and I kind of want to put it somewhere that it's not really going to get bugged all that much. Fund My Comic is there. It's an alternative to these big, more corporate structures that are, we all know, lean more towards the fulfilling their ESG scores than they do actually making a profit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This whole guilt by association thing is ridiculous.
It is.
I don't really care about all of those things. I mean, do you like the book or not? I mean, it's really about the content of the book, and it's more about the content of the person's character. Now, it's no secret that Pops Van Zant and myself have not had a fuzzy relationship as of late. But we've both put aside our maybe misunderstandings with each other, or whatever they are. We've put them aside. And he had questions, and hard questions, about Fund My Comic. Well, remember I said I wanted to make it strong for the person that hates me? Well, when he asked all the questions, I'm smiling inside because I had all the answers already. Because I knew what questions the haters were going to ask. And I was able to answer those questions. And he is in full support of Fund My Comic. Not because he and I are buddies, but because I made this for everybody, including the people that don't like me. It's not just for me. It's not just for the people that like me. When I abandoned that, I knew that I was going to embrace it, that it was for every person that wanted to make a book with complete freedom of expression, with complete independence, and complete trust in mind with their fans. That it was for them. I made it for you guys. That's what it's here for. That's what Todd and I believe in. Anti-censorship, free speech. So it doesn't matter if you like Luke or not. It doesn't matter if you think I'm a dick or a good guy, or if you think, it doesn't matter. Everything is above board. And that was one of the other reasons why we set up the funding to go the way it does. So when you run a campaign on Fund My Comic, here's what happens. Your backer comes in and they back. That money hits our platform. And when it hits the platform, only our platform fee and the tips go into our account. Okay? So those go into our account. The rest of that money slides over into your account over here. So it goes into your escrow where you receive the interest on it, where you get the payout from. It all goes that way. So we control the disbursement, but the money's not in my account. We can refund it back for a short period of time, back to the backer. But we can't touch that money. It's not ours. We can't transfer it over to Fund My Comics account. Can't happen. Impossible. The only thing we can do is transfer it back to the backer's account. That's the only thing that we can do. We set it up like that so that people can have trust that Todd and Luke aren't stealing people's money. Because if they're like, well, I don't know if I can trust Luke. I don't know. Some people trust me because I used to be a pastor. Some people don't trust me because I used to be a pastor, right? Depending on what their background
is. Be there.
Yeah, right. So we considered those things, and that's what we accounted for. Backers have 5 days. Okay, so there's two different ways that we process payments based on the feedback from the community. The first is we take the money right away, and that is for continuous campaigns and for keep it all campaigns. When we process that money, we don't wait till the end of a campaign to disperse the funds, because a lot of these campaign runners, they need the money to pay for the art and the production of the book. That's why they're funding, right? So we go ahead and disperse that in such a way that they are able to get money to pay for their artist, pay for their colorist, pay for the letters, so that they can fulfill faster instead of having to wait until the end. So we set up payment disbursements for the creators that way. So you have 5 days, 5 business days, to ask Fund My Comic for a refund. We can process it at that point. After 5 days, that money is now cleared into that person's account. And if the disbursement has gone out to them already, they have to issue the refund themselves. If it has not, we can do the refund. So that's how that works. But you have 5 days. So that's why we say you have a 5-day window. Technically, we can go after that if the disbursement hasn't been sent out, but there's no guarantee that the disbursement hasn't gone out right away because they're scheduled. Okay, so that's how that works out.
All right, thanks for answering that question. Yeah. I saw in the chat I was not able to bring it up again, folks. We are still having technical difficulties. And
yeah. But I didn't go over the second way that we do the capturing.
All right.
If it's a all or nothing, we don't take the funding on that until the campaign's over. That's when we process the payment. So you have until the end to change whatever funding, whatever perk you want. And then, so you can cancel at any point and then re-up or switch or whatever.
Sorry about that. I was watching, still trying to figure these things out, but
yeah,
we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, and I'm going to have to go ahead and start running this down a little bit.
I haven't had dinner yet. It's 9 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got. I've actually got my next meal. I don't know why when I stream, my wife likes to bring my supper to me. I could have been eating these buffalo chicken wraps this whole time.
Oh man, it looks good.
Well, it does more. It tastes good too. But I'm going to heat it up and have it because I got work tonight anyway.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you, Luke Stone, for being here, comic creator and the creator of Fund My Comic. For everyone watching, if you want an alternative to Indiegogo and Kickstarter, a place to crowdfund your comic or your tabletop RPG or your book, and you don't want the fear of management of the site trying to a cancel culture mob trying to run you off. We finally got that kind of a platform. And Luke, I sincerely hope with all my heart that this grows as much as possible. And I'll do what I can on my end to try and help bring attention to it. And, I've already got, I think, a couple of guys who are on their campaigns and wanting to get them on to, get their campaigns noticed as well. Agent Zero's one right there. He's in the chat. Again, apologies to everyone for my technical difficulties. I was not able to see or hear everything, but we can have a conversation. And, Luke, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, it really is.
So I appreciate you being here. Now comes the portion. I appreciate everyone coming by. Thank you, especially to everyone who jumped into Rumble to help drop a chat over there. I got a couple of new followers. Thank you all for following me, helping me try and build that Rumble following with all the Gamer Word gang, as I like to call them. Got about 6 watching over there. Now is usually the part of the stream when I play the outro and wish everyone a good night. But technical difficulties being what they are, I don't know how to do that. All right, so now I'm going to, Luke, now you can watch, I guess, try and start. Are you still there?
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Okay, so I'm clicking on things and I've got nothing, just no.
You're going to have to reboot, man.
Now that was probably me, or was that you?
No, wasn't me.
I wonder. Now I can access stuff on my. Okay, the bar still works. Okay, that's me. That's the tone. I'm clicking on the Internet Explorer. The tabs are frozen. Let me just click in broadcast. Let me try this. I didn't boomer this up, guys. I swear it must be on my end with my my computer. I guess I've never had this happen before. A little embarrassing, but it is what it is.
They always say that. This has never happened before.
Yeah. I click leave studio. Well, guys, let's see what happens. I'm fixing to just hit reboot the computer. That's all I can do for the moment.
All right.
Wait, is
if
this
he drops, I'm dropping.
Yeah, update and shut down. Estimate 3 minutes. So, does it need to update? Is that why it's doing this? What? Okay.
Who knows?
Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and just restart the computer. If this is goodbye, this is goodbye. Luke, thank you for being here, man.
Have a good one. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. Chat, you were fantastic.
Huh. Well, that's funny. I'm still streaming even though I restarted my entire computer and I came back. Okay, it's all working now. Well, I apologize to everyone. Let me test this out. Might take a sec. Yep. Everything's working. Everything is functioning perfectly fine now. So after the fact, I do apologize, everyone, for the technical difficulties. And knowing this, I know now I can actually kind of I could shut down my computer, drop out, come right back, restore my tabs. Interesting. But we all be boomering, AJ. Yeah, I hear you. No, it wasn't AJ, it wasn't my fault. It was my computer. The tabs all just froze. It was really weird. And everybody from Luke's channel, thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. Luke, again, thank you. Thank you to everyone in the chat for dropping in. I very much appreciate it. And going through with our technical issues, go support Fund My Comic. And if you've decided to become a comic creator, hey, you've got a new platform you can do it at. You don't have to worry about somebody that doesn't like you trying to get you kicked off or shadow banned. I think that's a wonderful thing. So I'm going to go ahead and play the outro. Thank you all for showing up. It was a wonderful evening. It was a wonderful conversation too. Technical issues aside, have a good day.